OSU.
Free FM KWRZ Canyonville and 1490 AM KSKR Roseburg. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
I've worn that hat and that shirt the first 2 weeks of the season. Oregon has escaped with victories. Is it bad juju because they haven't played well, or is it good juju that they've been able to pull out wins despite playing
Joey,
poorly?
if you wear that shirt for the remainder of this season, you may find me jumping out of the press box at some point with frustration because this is like I don't know if I can take it.
I know, these games have been brutal.
I could have a heart attack. I mean, do you care about my health, Joey?
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
Welcome in, everybody, here on this Friday edition of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. I say that, and I realize that every Friday, every show is a Friday edition of the show. We bring it to you Fridays from noon till 2. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving, providing labor services for your moving needs. Veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. Senior veteran discounts available. Book now at 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. Just search BTB Moving. Well, welcome in, everybody. It is September 20th. It's a Friday. We've got football coming up tonight for high school football around Douglas County. We've got college football coming up this weekend for the Oregon State Beavers. The NFL got underway with Week 3 last night, and boy, oh boy, do we have all sorts of fun stuff coming up for you here today. Joining me, as always, Knight Jarecki here in the Score Sports Closet. Knight, my man, it's good to be a Friday, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great day to be a Friday. I'm just so fired up. We got high school football happening tonight. We're going to be making the trip south to create our first road trip together.
You know what yeah.
We'll
get into that probably here at some point. It is our longest road trip of the season as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah, an hour and a half to get to Central Point. Longest road trip that Roseburg will be taking this year. Longest road trip that, barring a run to the postseason,
and they said
any
conference
of that is.
Realignment's bad.
So there we go. We got that going for us, which is nice.
It's good to get it over with.
It is
first week of the year.
Yeah, first third week of the season for Roseburg. First road trip. Just get it done and out of the way.
You got to think that, if you're somebody like UCLA or somebody like Stanford, you'd rather play that Boston College game at the start of the
East
season.
Coast trip out of the way.
Right?
I agree. Yeah, get it done with, and then hopefully life is a little bit smoother and easier from there. Mm-hmm. Well, we welcome you all into the program as we will be breaking down all of this football stuff that's going on today, maybe some of what we saw yesterday on Thursday Night Football, getting into the weekend with college football coming up as well. We got a lot that's going on and a lot to get to here on today's program. So we appreciate you tuning in and joining us, whether you're listening on the radio, maybe you are tuning in on the 541 radio app and listening online, or you could be watching the program through our YouTube stream, which we've got up and running right now. Search 1490 The Score on YouTube. You can find us there, and you can follow the broadcast with us as always. So you can also go back and check it out later if you missed part of the program and there was a segment you want to hear. We are wide open today we don't have any interviews. We spent the first 3 weeks of the show talking with local high school football coaches, previewing what's coming up. We are done with the prep football previews. We'll probably dive into some high school football on the show here today, but we'll also, we'll keep that on our radar as things to continue to talk with coaches and players throughout the rest of the season here on the show. But we don't have any interviews today, so you guys can feel free to call in. If there's a topic that's going on and you want to chime in, you can feel free to hit us up at 541-673-5551. That is the phone number, and we'd love to hear from you guys here today. We do have tickets to give away to Oregon State and Purdue coming up tomorrow.
Big game.
Yeah, there you go. Bounce back game for the Beavers. We will get into some of that. So we've got tickets to give away on today's show and plenty of fun conversations to be had. So sit tight, pull up your chair. Let's get this thing going. We kick off our tailgate show with our big topic of the day, as we usually do. And you might have an idea of what we might be thinking, because there was kind of a big college football game over the weekend. So we dive right into it with our big topic of the day. It's time to crack a cold one.
Nothing gets a tailgate party going like a nice cold beverage. So let's crack one open and kick off today's show with our top story.
Gabriel, pump fake, wants to go down the middle, nothing open, so he might decide to run. Now he's going to throw to the end zone, back of the end zone, he's got him! Krayshawn Holden! I thought Gabriel might take off and run, but he waited, and Holden got free in the back of the end zone, and Gabriel found him for the touchdown.
I think the biggest thing is you saw in this game, we have three penalties, right? I think that's the biggest difference. When we don't put ourselves in a negative hole to start, especially coming into an environment where it's a road game, I think that our guys' focus was really cranked up as far as staying in a rhythm, and that really paid off. When we weren't playing for 2nd and 12 and we're playing for 2nd and 4, right, you can play a game the clean way.
Trent, how confident are you in this team to bounce back from a game like this?
I'm very confident. Again, they're a good group. We've seen them respond well to adversity. We got to fix what we see tomorrow when we watch the film, and then get better. So I feel good about this group and their character and their ability to bounce back.
Well, as we get things off and rolling here on the program today with a little bit of talk of the Civil War that happened last Saturday. It was Oregon winning 49-14 on top of Oregon State in that matchup up at Research Stadium. And Knight, it was the game I think we kind of knew could happen for Oregon. It was the type of play that we kind of have been expecting for the first 2 weeks for the Oregon Ducks. Mm-hmm. And finally we saw a team that kind of looked worthy of being in the top 10 of the AP Top 25.
100%. I mean, this was the team that we thought Oregon was probably going to be heading into the season. And those first 2 games, it was dicey. I mean, we had it on the intro to the Umpqua Basin Tailgate show last week. That foolish comment of mine. Well, is Oregon even going to make a bowl game? Because they played close against Idaho. Should they have lost against Boise State? Probably. I mean, the odds that you have a kickoff return and a punt return to propel you to victory, that rarely happens. It felt like that fourth quarter against Boise State, everything that Oregon was doing was trying to lose that game. And then they come out against Oregon State, And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, this is the Oregon that we expected. Oh, Dylan Gabriel can use his feet. By the way, best quote of the week, Dylan Gabriel started his press conference, gets out there and goes, well, there's a lot of people that have been wanting to convert me to a running back. And I'm just happy that I was able to do that for them. I think, at the end of the day, he used his legs. Oregon's defense was dominant in the second half. That not to say, I think that Oregon State probably came out with a wrong game plan. It felt like they wanted to pass a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we're probably going to dive into a little bit. But Oregon got ahead, and they were able to stay ahead, especially in that second half. Shut out the Beavers in the second half, which is huge. They needed to do that, and it was a big pick-me-up for the defense.
Yeah, it definitely was a kind of get-right game for Oregon as they get ready to go into Big Ten play. Got a bye week this week, so you hope that they can build off the momentum they had there into this week and be able to take that into what should hopefully be kind of a soft open for the Ducks in the Big Ten, where they get UCLA. They've got to go on the road.
Who may be the softest team in the Big Ten.
Seriously. UCLA on the road for the first game of the Big Ten for the Ducks next week, not this week. And they've got the bye week to prepare for it. So a lot of opportunities to kind of build momentum off of what we saw this week, this last week against Oregon State. You mentioned, the start of that game for Oregon State, I thought was a great game plan. They ate up a bunch of clock, and it was exactly what we had been talking about in the on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate show last Friday, was that it really is a concern that Oregon State might be able to control the time of possession, which is what they've done all season with that run game. And maybe they just tried to get away from that, tried to get a little too cutesy, and wanted to find a way to maybe throw something at the Ducks, pun intended, I guess. Throw something at the Ducks that they didn't game plan for, and it just didn't quite work out.
It really didn't, and it was really interesting. That first drive, they came out throwing the ball a lot, and Giovanni McCoy did a good job extending plays with his legs. Oregon State got set back a little bit with that penalty, and then Oregon did a good job walking down in the red zone in their own territory and forced a field goal. They got that field goal block, which I think is a very underrated play in that first half, because all of a sudden, if you look up and it's 22-17, it's a little bit closer at halftime than that 22-14 score and Oregon getting the ball back. If it's 22-17, Oregon kicks that field goal in the second half, it's still a one-possession game at that point. So that field goal block at the beginning was huge. I really thought that Jam Griffin was going to run the ball more. It felt like they were going to Hankerson quite a bit. Griffin just 7 carries, 27 yards, and he had some success, averaging 3.9 yards per carry. That was better than Hankerson, who had 2 touchdowns in the game, don't get me wrong, but I thought that they were going to utilize him more. And in the second half, Oregon just was able to get off the field. It felt like Oregon State in the first half had a lot of third and shorts. They didn't have that in the second half. They got behind the chains a lot in first and second down, and Oregon was able to make them pay. And all of a sudden, it was like you just looked up, and this game was severely out of hand.
Yeah, and I think that leads to Oregon State kind of getting out of its game plan as well. Obviously, they got to try to come back. You got to throw the ball a bit more. They were fairly balanced in their play selection, 32 rushes, 35 passing attempts. So fairly even and balanced on that, but I think the game
if you're playing
that.
Oregon, you got to have like 60% run game. You want to control that clock. And that's what they did. That first quarter, Oregon only had 1 possession.
Yep.
And that's what I texted you immediately, and I was like, this is exactly what we talked about. This is why this is a scary game. I thought it was going to be low scoring, and I was surely wrong on that one.
You and me both. Although, I'll say I was a little bit closer.
You were.
We were both completely wrong, but I was a little less wrong.
But to be fair, Oregon had not shown that at all through their first 2 games. Oregon defensively had not had a performance like that. And, maybe it's the rivalry game. Maybe that this was Bryce Betcher's Super Bowl and he just fired up the squad, and Oregon was needing a leader like that. We were talking about it a little bit last week, how this squad, it didn't feel like they had that same fire. They didn't have that leader that is Bo Nix. Well, I think Bryce Betcher could be that leader. I think that Bryce Betcher has the passion, right? And
his growth, man.
His growth. He was a walk-on baseball player.
Two-sport guy.
Two-sport guy. He came to Oregon as a baseball player, walked onto the football team.
Just crazy.
crazy transition, though, because he was a quarterback in high school.
Yeah. No, and I called Bryce Betcher games in high school. He great athlete, fantastic on the football or a baseball field, and he's great athlete. Ties to Roseburg, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool there. So.
But he could be that leader, though. That's the thing.
I would agree. I mean, he's definitely his star is right. Like his stock is rising significantly and seems to be taking that role, beginning attention on a bigger scale. And I think he's grounded enough. He's in touch enough to know that, like, look, maybe this puts him into a leadership role. Maybe he was already there, but like he's proving that he can be that. He's proving it on the field, which can then in turn lead to guys rallying behind you and you being able to take kind of on that leadership type of role that is going to get a team going. So I think what was really key for Oregon in this one was their efficiency, because like we said, we thought that the game plan could be that Oregon State takes the ball out of Oregon's hand offensively. And Oregon was able to make their drives count early on to where it put Oregon State in a hole, and that kind of flipped their game plan a little bit in this matchup. So going forward, I can think kind of like turning the page here, because this was a week ago. We're getting ready for Oregon State and Purdue tomorrow. How does this change perceptions? I mean, you can go week to week. It's doom and gloom one week. It is completely elation the next week. So it really changes. But is Oregon back? I mean, we always say that, that's the common phrase for everything. Is Oregon back, though? Like, was this the get-right game, or was it Oregon? See, I would think it kind of is an indication that they are, because
they're back.
You would say, was this Oregon beating up on a lesser opponent? Well, they played Boise State and Idaho in the previous two games. And look, I think those are good teams.
And that could be the question. Is Boise State a better team than Oregon State at the moment? Is Idaho a better team than Oregon?
Could make for a great Friday, November 29th, when Oregon State's at Boise State on the blue turf.
And last game of the season.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an exciting one. And that could, I don't, like, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself, but that could determine whether or not Boise State is in the playoff. Like, I think Boise State's that good.
That's a valid point.
The other one, too, Washington State, like these next couple of weeks, they got Boise State coming in. They had the big win against Washington. That could be a game when Oregon State plays Wazoo, which could make or break Wazoo's chances at the postseason. So Oregon State has some big games coming up. But for Oregon, yes, Oregon is back. They needed that. And then now they go into, they don't like to call it a bye week. They call it a work week. And so it's their
okay,
their work,
Dan.
Yeah. It's their work week this week. That's what's happening for Oregon this week. They're not going to rest. And you look at the next two games for Oregon. You got UCLA on the road. You've played in the Rose Bowl before. There might be more green than blue in that stadium for that Oregon-UCLA game. UCLA just does not look
the Rose
good.
Bowl. Yeah.
UCLA, I don't know if you've looked at what's happened to UCLA this year. They narrowly escaped Hawaii with a win, winning 16-13. And then in their most winnable game over the next 5 games, they had Indiana, and they lost 42-13 at home. They have LSU tomorrow. Then they have Oregon. Then they're at Penn State, and then home against Minnesota. Like that, it's UCLA. They could end this season with 1 win,
which was Hawaii and a squeaker.
Right? And it's funny too. I saw a post. They were saying that like Buffalo Wild Wings in Los Angeles, like if UCLA wins, then you get 6 free wins or 6 free wings. There's a chance that you might not get free wings.
The Buffalo Wild Wings going to pay. They're going to earn their sponsorship on that one.
So Oregon has UCLA coming up next, and then right after that, they got Michigan State rolling into town on a Friday. Michigan State, they're undefeated right now. They got away from Maryland with a victory by 3 points. That's a good win for Michigan State. They just won 40-0 against Prairie View, and they escaped Florida Atlantic 60-10. I think Michigan State's going to be a good program in a few years. I think Jonathan Smith is a very good coach.
Definitely.
And I know that Beaver fans...
That stings.
But look what he did with DJ Uyunglele last year. I mean, he made him into a 10-win quarterback Florida State would love that.
Yeah,
right
they would
now.
love that.
But I don't think that Michigan State's ready right now. And so if you look at the next two games after the work week, you got UCLA and Michigan State. Those could be wins. And with Oregon playing the way they did against Oregon State, it feels like they're figuring things out. All of a sudden, you're setting yourself up for a very exciting matchup October 12th against Ohio State. Not looking ahead because I felt like Oregon was looking ahead through their first 2 weeks. They got to that Oregon State game. I don't think they're going to take these next two games with a grain of salt. I think that they're going to come in, fine-tune everything, and all of a sudden you got a top 10 matchup with Ohio State.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I think it's definitely the schedule is setting up the way you would like it to be going into the Big Ten. Obviously, a lot of eyeballs on the addition of the West Coast schools going into the Big Ten, and Oregon has a chance to kind of make people feel like they're really smart for picking the Oregon Ducks as a favorite to win the Big Ten. Oregon's got a chance to make a lot of people feel like they were geniuses because they've got a schedule that sets up well to start out play in the Big Ten on the right foot and gear up for that big October 12th matchup with Ohio State at Autzen Stadium, which is going to just be an absolute major matchup. I mean, it just doesn't get any bigger than that. So I agree. I think Oregon is we saw the adjustments needed. I think the offensive line was great. Defense really came up big. And I don't think Oregon State's a bad team.
No.
I think they just found themselves catching an Oregon team that was hitting on all cylinders for the first time and really needed to kind of like keep their foot on the pedal, their foot on the pedal. Yeah, that's right.
Pedal to the metal.
Yeah. And it just kind of snowballed on Oregon State. And I think Oregon State has the opportunity to kind of really get back into it this week with a Purdue team that is very beatable, and could get a win against a Big Ten team. And we'll talk more about that here coming up as we do it. Got to get to a break. I wanted to look at that matchup with Oregon State and Purdue here coming up in our next segment, and just kind of see so we asked, is Oregon back? I think our resounding answer in the studio is, yeah, this is Oregon. They've got a great opportunity to be able to keep building off of what they did against Oregon State. Next up for Oregon State is Purdue. Can Oregon State get their season back on track in what is a critical season as they try to kind of bridge the gap between what was the Pac-12 and what will be the Pac-12? I think we'll discuss that when we come back as we continue on here with the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving. Don't forget, we got tickets to give away, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Is Oregon back? What's the future like for Oregon State? You can feel free to hit us up on the YouTube channel. You can chime in with us there if you want in the comment section. Thank you to Mr. Rotary Films. Great to have you there with us. Let's go Tailgaters. I love it. You can hit us up in the comment section there. Hit us up on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. You can go to 1490 The Score on Twitter and send us a message there.
KSKR The Score.
KSKR The Score. If you search 1490 The Score, it comes up as well. And you can also hit us up on the phone line at 541-673-5551. All right, we'll take a break. Coming up, Knight Jarecki has a Score sports update for you here on The Score.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Jarecki. Well, it's Friday night, and that means high school football in the state of Oregon. Friday Night Lights tonight, and that means the Roseburg Indians are going to be in action. The Indians will look to bounce back after suffering their first loss of the season last week. The Tribe will take its first road trip of the season south to face off against the Crater Comets at Dutchmeyer Field in Central Point. The game kicks off tonight at 7 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 6:45 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or you can watch the live video simulcast at 541radio.com. At the Class 3A level, Sutherland, Douglas, South Umpqua are all still undefeated as they continue non-conference play this week. Number 7th ranked South Umpqua heads to Klamath Union, Douglas travels to Valley Catholic, and the Sutherland Bulldogs host the Phoenix Pirates in a battle of unbeatens. All three games kick off at 7 p.m. You can tune in to hear the Sutherland Bulldogs on I-101 FM with the pregame starting at 6:45 p.m. The top-ranked Oakland Oakers have taken control of the Class 2A rankings with a pair of big-time wins. The Oakers will look to remain undefeated tonight as they host the undefeated Salem Academy team. In 8-man football, number 3, North Douglas welcomes in number 8, Camas Valley to Drain tonight. Yoncalla hosts a North versus South matchup against Glendale, and Riddle looks for an upset at number 4, Cross Point Christian. In 6-man football, Days Creek looks for its first win against Gilcrest, and Elkton looks to end a 2-game skid against Eddyville. You can check out today's high school sports schedule at 541radio.com. Also coming up tonight, we got the Friday night pregame show presented by Mountain Mike's. Got a couple of great interviews happening tonight at 6 o'clock on The Score, including one by Hunter Vaughn from North Douglas High School, who had the first quarter of the ages. You're going to want to tune in for that one.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Roseburg football is on the air. It's a new era with a new coach and new opponents. Tune in Friday nights as the Roseburg Indians take to the gridiron for hard-hitting high school football action. Get ready for kickoff with the Friday night pregame show presented by Mountain Mike's Pizza starting at 6. Then we go live to the field starting at 6:45 as we count down to kickoff at 7. It's Roseburg football on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or watch the live video simulcast at 541radio.com. Recapping games and looking ahead to the weekend, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Well, Oregon State now, they've got a rebound after their first loss of the season. The Beavers get ready to host the Purdue Boilermakers. 5:30 kickoff coming up on Saturday from Reser Stadium. It is the first time since, what was it, 2010?
2010.
I put this in my notes, and now I'm like, I better get the date right. 2010. First time since 2010 that a team from the Eastern time zone has made the trek to Reser Stadium.
That's insane.
That's crazy. It was Louisville in 2010.
Good old Cardinals. and the crazy part, too, was the other note that you made was that with Wake Forest playing Oregon State next season at Reser Stadium, that's the first time an ACC member will play at Reser Stadium. That is an
currently
active member
in
because
that,
Louisville played, but Louisville was in the Big East at that time.
Good.
And
yeah,
so,
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, and then I was like wondering, I was like, okay, wait, do they play Cal or Stanford this year? Because those are active ACC members, but I
think they play
Oregon State. They
Cal.
do play at Cal.
They play at Cal.
Yeah, so.
But they don't have an ACC team coming to town.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's it's kind of interesting and might speak to just how hard it may be sometimes to get teams to come to Corvallis.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just the travel?
That's what I was wondering, too. Is it just the fact that it's kind of like a little bit out of the way? There's no major airport. I mean,
maybe. I mean, that could be it. It could be also like Oregon State in the 2010s didn't necessarily have the best decade, and so people weren't necessarily looking to put that game on their schedule.
Yeah, that very well could be, too. Although what they probably were doing is like, yeah, we'll play you, but you got to come to our place. We're not gonna go out there. Not for that.
It could be one of those things because it's like a home and home situation. Maybe Oregon State doesn't want to pay for the travel to go all the way to like a Florida or like a Carolina.
Very true. Yeah, I mean it's not easy for Oregon State to necessarily get out of Corvallis as well to make some of these big trips.
But let me introduce you to the University of South Florida, your potential new Pac-12 member.
Right. Yeah. Right. I thought you had breaking news there for a minute. You had me. It's gonna. I mean, college football is. Look, I'll admit, like, while I'm like, this is bringing a lot of intrigue and difference and changes and whatnot. Like, it's all screwed up. Like this conference realignment stuff. It's screwed up, and I understand why everybody hates it. I understand why it's happening, but I also totally get why the fans are completely against it.
Yeah, but I'm all here for Cal versus Florida State this week.
Yeah, we'll get to some Cal football because those guys are just out of control down there in Berkeley. Which does that surprise anybody? Not necessarily.
Yes, absolutely. Dude, this was a sleeping giant. I don't think anybody was prepared for.
They're just crazy down there.
Like the thing about Cal is like they were like, oh, you don't even have any fans. Can you even fill up California Stadium? Do they even care that they're going to the ACC? Do they even know that they're in the ACC?
That's a fair question.
Like that was like a question about Cal, and all of a sudden Cal is just like undefeated and America's team.
Your favorite team to I just watch and admire. Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into some Cal football coming up here, but Oregon State and Purdue coming up tomorrow. I mean, this is big for Oregon State. This is I forget. It was the DA show they used to. Is this a gotta have it or a must win or they had all these weird ways they wanted to. But this to me is like this is kind of almost on must win territory for Oregon State because they want to prove that they are not fading away. You had your counterpart in the Pac-12, Washington State last week, goes and beats their rival Washington. Like you can't risk being left behind in the conference that got left behind. Oregon State needs to pick up a Power 5 win.
Yeah, all of a sudden Oregon State looks up and they're in last place. That's the sad reality, right?
I mean, yeah.
But this is the thing, is it's a bounce-back game for both teams. I mean, Purdue just got absolutely annihilated by Notre Dame. And so if you're a Purdue fan, you're like, what happened? Week 1, we just won. It was 49-0. We're feeling pretty good. Hudson Card's looking good. And then you awake Notre Dame, who had lost to Northern Illinois. And I think the Fighting Irish were a little bit upset about that loss, and so they came out on the road in West Lafayette 66-7. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow, losing 66-7, losing 59 points at home. Yeah. And now you have to go all the way across the country. It's not easy to go from West Lafayette to Corvallis, and that's the trip that they're going to have to do. So it's a bounce-back game for Purdue just as much. But Oregon State, it's a stripe-out game, 5:30. I think it's an exciting one, and if you look at the rest of the schedule, like this is a must-win game for Oregon State. You need to have something positive because you have a tough schedule because it's a little different than Washington State. Oregon State has Purdue, obviously this weekend. Then a couple of weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, they have Cal coming to town at the end of October, and then you also have Boise State at the end of the year, and then Washington State. Washington State doesn't have that. Washington State right now is in a pretty good position to potentially be in the playoff. Washington State avoids a lot of big-time teams. If you look at Washington State, they have Boise State coming up next Saturday. After that, Fresno State, Hawaii, San Diego State, Utah State, New Mexico, Oregon State, Wyoming. All of those are winnable games for Washington State. They just played their toughest game of the year. That was Washington. Oregon State just played their toughest game of the year, and that's Oregon. But if you look at Oregon State and what they have to go through, you added in that Cal game. You still have Boise State on deck. Washington State at the end of the year. Those are back-to-back, Wazoo and Boise State. Like, this is a game where you need to win so that you can set the tone, because if you win this next game, all of a sudden you look up, you're like, all right, Colorado State, Nevada, those are winnable games in your book. UNLV is a good team this year. That's going to be a tough game at home. Cal's going to be a tough game at home.
San Jose on the road for Cal.
San Jose State is undefeated right now. That could be a good game. Air Force on the road, 6,700 feet. Like that's a high elevation game you're going to. Air Force knows. Talk about draining the clock. Air Force knows how to drain the clock.
How many possessions does a team get in that game?
This is a game where like it could determine whether or not Oregon State wins 6 to 7 games this year.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think the importance of this game being against a Big Ten team, a Power 5 team, like. I don't think anybody's going to confuse that Purdue is maybe a Big Ten title contender, but at the same time, they're in the Big Ten, and Oregon State trying to prove that they need to be considered among those groups, that tier of team in college football. Like, you've got to have some of those, and the opportunities to do it are not very many. There's very few. You've got Purdue, you've got Cal, you've got I guess that's really it. Everybody else is Mountain West or Pac-12, which is just Pac-2 right now. So the opportunities to make those statement games, to get yourself on the map, for Oregon State to maybe, hey, if they can run the table the rest of the way, one loss, they should be considered for the playoff. But if your only wins, like if they don't win this one, if they finish out with 2 losses, but they didn't beat a team from a Power 5 conference, like the perception is not going to be great for Oregon State. And unfortunately, college football, no matter what kind of realignment we have, it's still a beauty pageant, and you still have to have wins that look good on paper.
And this is big for just recruiting teams to join the Pac-12, right?
Yeah.
Like if Oregon State beats Purdue, all of a sudden you're like, okay, maybe the Pac-12 can still compete with the Power 5.
And could
Power
be
4.
considered back into that Power 5 level.
Yeah. All of a sudden you see a team like Memphis being like, okay, maybe Oregon State's competing with a team like Purdue. Maybe we could join that conference, and maybe that's the missing piece that the Pac-12 needs. You need a Memphis. You need a team like a Memphis. South Florida could be in the mix. UTSA, UNLV. Like, these are schools that you're trying to recruit, and you need to back it up with your performance on the field. And this is a big statement for Oregon State. This is a nationally televised game. It is on the CW, but it is still nationally televised. You can get the CW everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that, like, Oregon State versus Purdue, this weekend, there's a lot of good matchups. 5:30, though, like, you're kind of a standalone at that point. Like, you are going to have a lot of eyes on you, especially at the end of that game, especially depending on how the Tennessee versus Oklahoma game goes. Like, that could be a really good game, Purdue, Oregon State, and I think that a lot of people are going to be watching this game, and this is an opportunity for Oregon State to display Reser Stadium. Beautiful, brand-new stadium they just renovated, a stripe out. Show off that crowd and make a stand that, hey, Oregon State is still playing good football out there on the West Coast.
It's definitely going to be a fun one. It is a 5:30 kickoff tomorrow, Oregon State and Purdue. Pre-game coverage will start at 3:30 right here on The Score, and you can tune in to hear Mike Parker and the gang as they bring you the contest there between OSU and Purdue. And, hey, if you want to go to the game, we've got tickets to give away. We'll do that next segment, so don't go anywhere. Yeah. We'll have that for you. Keep the phone number handy at 541-673-5551. That's 541-673-5551. We'll be giving you a chance to call in and win those tickets next segment, so stay tuned for that. You mentioned, I had a thought that popped up in my head there that I wanted to get to, and we'll do this when we come back. I want to take a look at what's coming up this week. We got big college football matchups. Obviously, we've been talking Ducks and Beavs a lot here, but college football's got some huge matchups coming up this weekend. Arch Manning, anybody? I know it's University of Louisiana Monroe, but
hey, did you hear what their coach said?
No.
Oh, Louisiana Monroe's coach was like, hey, we have some guys on this team that have beaten Arch Manning in high school, and we know what that feeling's like, and they feel pretty good that they can do it again. I was like, all right.
Alrighty. Arch Manning's team now might be a little bit better than his team in high school, but okay, good. Hey, you got to tell yourself whatever you can when you are.
No, but you love the confidence.
Yeah.
You know, at least they're coming in like, yeah, we've beaten him before, not, hey, do you want free biscuits?
Another topic coming up on the program in hour number 2. But we'll talk to what's coming up in college football this week, look at some of those big matchups. Plus, I did want to, I was just realizing that you and I have seen each other every day since last weekend when you went to the Civil War. But we should get your report on the newly remodeled Reser Stadium up there and your thoughts on that, because I haven't been yet. I was hoping to go last weekend. Didn't work out, but I want to know what your thoughts were on new Reser Stadium as we get ready to send some fans up there to that game in the next segment. So stay tuned. We'll be talking more football, more college football here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. We are just getting started. We got plenty coming up for you here in the next few minutes. So don't go anywhere. The Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We'll be back after this here on The Score.
With a Score 92.3 FM, 1490 AM news update, I'm Ashley Claiborne. 2 people were taken to the hospital following an assault incident Thursday night, and the investigation is ongoing. Roseburg police said at 7:20 p.m. officers responded to the Super 8 motel for a disturbance between two guests. Officers found both of those involved in the motel lobby covered in blood. Eventually, officers learned that the first suspect allegedly stabbed the second suspect several times in the abdomen during a fight inside their room, while the second suspect sustained head injuries due to numerous punches from the first suspect. Both were transported to CHI Mercy Medical Center. And ballots are starting to go out for the November general election. Douglas County Clerk told our partner station, News Radio 93.9 FM and 1240 KQEN, that ballots for those in the military and those living overseas are being mailed out today. He also said that out-of-state ballots will go out October 8th, and the bulk of county ballots will be mailed October 16th. Find more election information available along with complete local news coverage at 541radio.com. In sports, it's Friday, and there's a full slate of high school football on the schedule tonight. Roseburg Indians taking a bounce-back approach after suffering their first loss of the season last week. The Tribe will take its first road trip of the season to face Crater Comets at Dutchmeyer Field in Central Point. The game kicks off at 7 p.m. Tune in for coverage starting at 6:45 on the Score 92.3 FM or 1490 AM, or watch the live video simulcast at 541radio.com. At the Class 3A level, South Umpqua is headed to Klamath Union, Douglas traveling to Valley Catholic, and the Sutherland Bulldogs host the Phoenix Pirates in a battle of the unbeatens. Those games kick off at 7 p.m. Tune in to hear the Sutherland Bulldogs on I-101 FM with pregame coverage starting at 6:45. Sunshine this afternoon, a high in the mid-70s. Tonight clear and about 54 a low. And tomorrow sunny with a high near 80 degrees expected. News and information 24/7 at 541radio.com. This is The Score, 92.3 FM, 1490 AM.
Roseburg football is on the air. Tune in Friday night for another thrilling contest on The Score.
It's week 3 of the high school football season, and the Roseburg Indians are hitting the road for the first time. They head to Central Point to take on the Crater Comets in another league matchup as Roseburg looks to bounce back from its first loss.
Don't miss Roseburg High School football this Friday night. Pregame starts at 6:45 on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or watch the live video simulcast at 541radio.com.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Covering the latest buzz from the gridiron, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Oh, hey, that's us. Welcome back, everybody, here on the Score Sports Closet. It is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving, providing labor services for your moving needs. Veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. Senior and veteran discounts are available. Book now at 541-315-0122 or find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. Along with Knight Jarecki, I'm Joey Keeran. Great to be with you here on this Friday afternoon as you're gearing up for plenty of football. We get that teaser on Thursday Night Football, although maybe you fell asleep in the second half of that game.
Teaser? Do you mean sleeper?
It was just, it was not great. But that's Thursday Night Football for you, I guess. Good news is
it's Friday.
It looks like, well, good news, it's Friday, and good news, it looks like we got some great football matchups coming up this weekend.
Even tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Please do enlighten us here.
Oh, do you not know? Number 24 Illinois versus number 22 Nebraska. Joey, did you ever think that you'd live to see the day where Nebraska canceled classes on a Friday for an undefeated ranked matchup with Illinois? I don't know. I don't know. I just haven't. I never thought I'd see this day, but here we are.
Oh, it's the little things that get Knight Jarecki really excited. Yeah, that's tonight, huh? On Fox at 5 o'clock tonight. Yeah. So there you go.
Top 25 matchup. Wazoo's in action.
Tonight they are. Okay.
Yeah, Wazoo's playing San Jose State undefeateds.
Sweet. Good to know. Good to know. You got big matchups coming. I know the headline that keeps getting in my ear is Arch Manning. Yeah, coming back. He's going to get a chance to make his first start. Big.
You're like big matchup.
Big matchup.
Louisiana Monroe versus Texas. That's the one you're
both
eyeballing.
Undefeated. But number one Texas is 44.5
with players on
favorites.
one team that have beaten Arch Manning before.
No, but I mean, you do have a couple of different top 25 matchups. You mentioned Nebraska and Illinois, just inside the top 25 there. And then also on the weekend, number 12 Utah, number 14 Oklahoma State there in the Big 12. I mean, that should be a really fun one.
Yep. It's the Dinosaur Bowl. You got two quarterbacks that are 24 years old, or 24 and 25. Like the combined age of these two quarterbacks is like 49.
Gotcha.
Like literally, that's what it is. You have a quarterback at Utah that's 24, 25, and Alan Bowman is in his 7th season as well. You got 2 7th years. Both of these quarterbacks were in the same recruiting class as Trevor Lawrence.
I was going to say, does Cam McCormick make an appearance?
Right. That's what it feels like. But the two combined ages of these quarterbacks is 49. The Bears are playing the Colts on Sunday. The combined age is 44. Those two quarterbacks are 22.
Goodness.
That's the difference right now in college football.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy there. But that'll be a really fun one to keep an eye on Friday or Saturday afternoon on Fox, a 1 o'clock kickoff on that one. Also, you've got the just the long-standing tradition in the Big Ten of number 11 USC and number 18 Michigan squaring off in the Big House. I mean, Michigan, number 18, obviously the rankings would say that Michigan is an underdog in this one. The sports books have Michigan as a 4.5-point underdog in this matchup against USC. I'm very intrigued to see how USC plays in the Big House, but this feels as if it should be an opportunity for USC to really say, look out for us, everybody.
No doubt.
I feel like they've been, for as much as USC can, I feel like they've been flying under the radar here.
100%. I mean, you lose Caleb Williams, of course, but Miller Moss has been playing out of his mind. It's not like USC doesn't have weapons. They certainly have weapons on that offense, and all of a sudden you bring over the UCLA defensive coordinator, Deshaun Foster, and man, he's legit. He is a good DC, and USC finally has some defense. That was the problem. USC was able to score points. They couldn't stop people. What did they do last week? They shut out Utah State. Did you think that you'd live to see the day that Nebraska played Illinois in a ranked matchup right after USC blanked an opponent? I don't know if I would have guessed that one, Joey. But
you must have thought that I didn't expect to live past the age of 50 or something.
But that's what it feels like. USC was able to hold on for a victory against LSU. The defense played well. They held LSU to 20 points. Like if you asked a USC fan a year ago and said, hey, did you think that USC would hold opponents to 20 combined points over 2 weeks? They would have said, well, I don't think that I'm breathing right now, because right now, like, that just sounded so far-fetched. Alex Grinch was a bad defensive coordinator. USC has it going defensively now, and they have an opportunity to make a statement. Michigan, I think a little bit of a head-scratcher at the beginning of the year, starting a walk-on over Alex Orji. Orji was projected to be the starter coming into the year, and then all of a sudden, Michigan decided, well, we're actually not going to start Orji. We're going to start Davis Warren. Warren did not play well. 2 TDs, 6 interceptions, and now you have a new quarterback coming into this game. I think that USC versus Michigan, Big House, like, this is a big-time deal, and the fans are going to be out there in Ann Arbor. Side note, this is a little bit obscure, but I just thought it was funny. USC football today, they posted a video of the team on the plane, and they said, headed to Big Ten country. And I'm like, aren't you leaving from Big Ten country?
I think I saw that, and Andy Staples said, isn't everywhere Big Ten country nowadays? So, I was looking at it. It'll be interesting. I think we get this will be the litmus test for USC. Obviously, blowing out Utah State, that's great. That's fine. They escape, 27-20 win over LSU. And LSU, it's LSU. It was at LSU, so always tough place to go play and go win. But I think we've seen LSU not necessarily be.
It was neutral
oh, true.
site.
That's right. It was the neutral site. Yes, that's right.
Which it was probably a home game for USC,
Yeah.
knowing that how many fans could drive up from LA to Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's true. So USC is looking good to start out the year, but I do kind of question if they've faced now, and I don't know if Michigan is going to be the team that maybe they're not the litmus test on this one. Maybe we have to wait a little bit longer. But man, I'm looking at this schedule. Like Michigan's not the national championship team they were a year ago. Wisconsin has been a team that's been good, but they haven't really been able to get over the hump.
Well, and they just lost their quarterback.
Yeah, just lost him for the year. Minnesota on the road. Penn State, that'll be a big one, but it is at home for USC. Then you're at Maryland. Long trip, but Maryland's not great. Rutgers, Washington.
It's a favorable schedule.
It's a really favorable schedule.
And this is the hardest game on the schedule this year for them, right?
I would say it probably that or but Penn State is at home. So
that's what going on the road to Michigan, like you get Penn State at home. That's awesome. You get Notre Dame at home at the end of the year. That's awesome. And you get Nebraska at home towards the end of the year. Also awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's extremely favorable looking at this schedule. I mean, Notre Dame, traditional matchup, tough one. Notre Dame, good team this year. Right now, number 17 in the poll. Like, that'll be a huge matchup to finish out the season, but it's at home. Like, this is extremely favorable. I had not really dug into USC's schedule until just now, and wow.
I think that a lot of people are sleeping on USC. I think that a lot of people.
I definitely feel like I was.
I think that a lot of people wrote off Lincoln Riley. I think that a lot of people looked at USC and what they did the last 2 years, specifically defensively, and was like, okay, Lincoln Riley's on the downturn. But at the end of the day, Lincoln Riley's still Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
Like, he is a really good
can coach. And can recruit. Yeah. What I think is going to be interesting is like it's a favorable schedule, and USC might have a chance to go unscathed through a lot of this, maybe a lot. They may be undefeated and which means they'll find themselves in the Big Ten championship game, and
they could.
I think that'll be really interesting.
They avoid Oregon this year.
Yeah,
it could be Oregon versus USC.
They don't have Oregon or Ohio State on their schedule.
That's so favorable.
Yeah, so they could find themselves in the Big Ten championship game. And which, if that's the case, they will be in the playoff.
Now here's the question where it gets really interesting, right? Is that like you could have a situation. Let's say Oregon wins out in the regular season, USC wins out in the regular season. Those two teams would meet, and then you also have Ohio State,
probably like
could have one loss against Oregon, and that would be 3 teams with a combined 2 losses because one team would have to lose in the Big Ten championship game. What happens in that situation? Does Ohio State get into the playoff? Are they the 12 seed because they didn't make it to the conference championship? Is Ohio State the 12 seed? All of a sudden USC would win. Would USC have to play like that 12 seeded Ohio State?
I mean,
like if USC wins out, like could they be the number 1 seed and play? Or maybe you decide to put the group of 5 team at that 12 seed.
Yeah,
USC could be number 2. Texas could be number 1. At that point, does USC again? Do they face off against Oregon? Do they play an Ohio State?
Yeah.
How does that go?
I think the 12-team playoff is going to be really extreme, and that was what I was going to say is that like USC could be, a favorable schedule. Maybe they don't get overly tested, don't play top teams all season long. They get into the Big Ten championship game, win or lose there, but then they would be going to the playoff. For USC in previous years, like if you go undefeated, maybe you win or lose a conference championship game, the likelihood of getting into a 14 playoff, if you were a Big Ten team and you win or lose and have just 1 or no losses after that, like you're likely getting into the 14 playoff, and then you've got to win 2 games to win a national championship. If you haven't really been tested, and then you get into a 12-team playoff, suddenly you've got to win more games, and you've got to like that. That could be tough. It'll definitely make it. I think that's the nice thing about a 12-team playoff is that you truly feel like you're going to get a national champion that they earned it for sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
You don't get like a Georgia last year that loses in the SEC championship game and then all of a sudden they're left out. They go from 1 to 5.
Yeah,
that's like almost as egregious as what happened at TCU in 2014, where TCU was number 3 in the country, won 55-3, and they dropped them 3 spots to number 6.
like I said before, it is still a beauty pageant in college football. It's going to be a really interesting season to see things play out, and I think we're really starting to see things ramp up. Some good games coming up this weekend. Thanks to Brian, who chimed in on a YouTube channel bringing up the Oregon State game. We talked about Oregon State heavily a little bit earlier in the show, but yes, big matchup against Purdue. More on that in a moment.
The biggest game, though, in my opinion, is Tennessee versus Oklahoma. Like, this game is just so exciting.
I saw that one
me.
too. Yeah.
Oklahoma number 15, Tennessee number 6, and Tennessee has an electric offense. You have two quarterbacks in this game that both came out of last year's recruiting class. Nico Iamaleava versus I tried.
You did better than I would have.
Nico versus Jackson Arnold, and that is an exciting matchup. But I think that what makes this matchup so exciting is that Josh Heupel's returning to Norman. This is a guy that was the quarterback the last time that Oklahoma won the national championship in 2000. This is a guy that was an offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, and he got fired. Why? Well, because they lost 40-6 in the bowl game, but also because Bob Stoops was like, I have a feeling about this Lincoln Riley guy out at East Carolina. I think that he could turn this offense around, turn Oklahoma into a contender, and he decided to fire Josh Heupel. And Josh Heupel, he kind of went a wild path. He went to Utah State for a year, and then he went to Missouri for a couple of years as the offensive coordinator, found his way to UCF, had some success with the Knights down there. UCF's athletic director gets hired to Tennessee, and he says, I have the guy for Tennessee football to revitalize this program. It's Josh Heupel. And Josh Heupel has done just that. He's made Tennessee into a contender again. And now, with all of that, he goes back to Norman, Oklahoma, on the visitor sideline for the very first time. 4:30 primetime game. Like, this is exciting. That's what it's all about. That's what college football is all about.
It's going to be a fun weekend of college football, and looking forward to it. We got a couple of minutes here left to go. We've been talking about Oregon State and their game coming up at home against Purdue. We've got tickets to give away. We'll do that here in a moment. But you got a chance to go to Reser, see the new press box, see the new stadium, get a chance to take it all in. I wanted to quickly give you a chance to share some thoughts on that.
My perception is the stadium looks phenomenal. It looks great.
Was it loud?
It was loud. I think it was loud. So the press box is a little stupid because they have glass windows that you can't open.
I hate
and so
that.
There's just like a little, like at the very top of two of the windows, like it's like a whole, like what is it, like the 40-yard line to like 15-yard line. It's all glass, and there's maybe two like half windows at the very top that you can like kind of open at a 45-degree angle. And so it kind of sounded loud, but you couldn't get like the full like sound of it, right?
Yeah.
Another, thing that I had wrong with the press box was they put a giant pillar in the middle of my view. I don't know who, like, it's an engineering school. Like, engineer the press box so that you could see the field. I was sitting down and I couldn't see from the 35 to the 35. That's a problem, sorry. as somebody that is there to cover a game, it'd be nice to watch the game. Besides that, though, it is a very beautiful press box, beautiful, beautiful suites. The stadium looks excellent. The food looked phenomenal just walking around. The fans turned out. Game day looked great. I was there when it was half built in 22, and it's so great to see the stadium completed. It is a premier location.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. You were giving me some of those lowdowns earlier, and you would think they would need to consult with the people that are going to be in those areas.
Yeah.
You talk to the fans about what you want. Talk to the other people that are going to be in the stadium about what's going to make those areas good.
I don't get creating a press box with windows. Like, you should open.
They should be able to open.
They should be able to open.
Well, good thing is that fans get to sit in a spot that's going to have a great view, and you could have a great view of the game here coming up. Oregon State and Purdue, 5:30 kickoff tomorrow. You want to go? Here's your chance. Give us a call, 541-673-5551. That's 541-673-5551. We'd love to send you to that game. So give us a call, and we will give you a chance to go. We'll be back with hour number 2 of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show after this, here on The Score.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Jarecki. Well, it's Friday night, and that means high school football in the state of Oregon. Friday Night Lights tonight, and that means the Roseburg Indians are going to be in action. The Indians will look to bounce back after suffering their first loss of the season last week. The Tribe will take its first road trip of the season south to face off against the Crater Comets at Dutchmeyer Field in Central Point. The game kicks off tonight at 7 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 6:45 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or you can watch the live video simulcast at 541radio.com. At the Class 3A level, Sutherland, Douglas, South Umpqua are all still undefeated as they continue non-conference play this week. Number 7th ranked South Umpqua heads to Klamath Union, Douglas travels to Valley Catholic, and the Sutherland Bulldogs host the Phoenix Pirates in a battle of unbeatens. All three games kick off at 7 p.m. You can tune in to hear the Sutherland Bulldogs on I-101 FM with the pregame starting at 6:45 p.m. The top-ranked Oakland Oakers have taken control of the Class 2A rankings with a pair of big-time wins. The Oakers will look to remain undefeated tonight as they host the undefeated Salem Academy team. In 8-man football, number 3, North Douglas welcomes in number 8, Camas Valley to Drain tonight. Yoncalla hosts a North versus South matchup against Glendale, and Riddle looks for an upset at number 4, Cross Point Christian. In 6-man football, Days Creek looks for its first win against Gilchrist, and Elkton looks to end a 2-game skid against Eddyville. You can check out today's high school sports schedule at 541radio.com. Also coming up tonight, we got the Friday night pregame show presented by Mountain Mike's. Got a couple of great interviews happening tonight at 6 o'clock on The Score, including one by Hunter Vaughn from North Douglas High School, who had the first quarter of the ages. You're going to want to tune in for that one.
From Astoria to Klamath Falls.
And we are excited to keep this thing moving.
From LeGrand to Roseburg.
And compete at a championship level and a top 25 level.
The Beaver State is primed to stay united as one. Join us Saturday. The Beavs host the Purdue Boilermakers. Our coverage begins at 3:30 on the Beaver Sports Network.
On The Score, Douglas County's home for the OSU Beavers.
Hanging out and talking ball. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. Fridays noon to 2 on The Score. Tune in each week as Joey, Keeran, and Knight Jarecki recap, debate, and break down the latest topics and hottest headlines in high school, college, and professional football. Join the fun by calling the show at 541-673-5551 or message us on X at KSKR The Score. It's local sports talk in Douglas County. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show on The Score.
These are the sounds of a dinner. But not just any dinner. A dinner that almost didn't happen. Because without food, it can't. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations to the COVID-19 Relief Fund are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Your help is needed now more than ever, and every dollar makes a difference. That's feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. On behalf of Feeding America and families nationwide, thank you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 Food Bank Strong.
Local sports talk in Douglas County. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. Fridays, noon to 2, right here on 92.3 FM KWRZ Canyonville and 1490 AM KSKR Roseburg. We're The Score, Douglas County's home for sports. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
I've worn that hat and that shirt the first 2 weeks of the season. Oregon has escaped with victories. Is it bad juju because they haven't played well, or is it good juju that they've been able to pull out wins despite playing
Joey,
poorly?
if you wear that shirt for the remainder of this season, you may find me jumping out of the press box at some point with frustration because this is like I don't know if I can take it.
I know these games have been brutal.
I could have a heart attack. I mean, do you care about my health, Joey?
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
That's going to be, I think, a quote I'm going to have to clip out at some point and just have saved for posterity's sake. Do you care about my health, Joey? Yes, I do. Knight Jarecki, I want you to be good. He joins me here in the Score Sports Closet as we kick off hour number 2 of our tailgate party as we start counting down to kick off here on this Friday afternoon. It is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving, providing labor services for your moving needs. Veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. They've got senior and veteran discounts available, so if you've got a move coming up, they are there to help you. You don't have to beg your friends to do it or buy a pizza and beer to share with friends. You can just get in touch with BTB Moving, and they will help you out. Book now at 541-315-0122. You can find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. Well, we were talking a lot of college football. Actually, we were talking pretty much strictly college football in hour number 1. I'm sure you could convince us to continue to do so here in hour number 2 if you want to chime in and be a part of the program. You are welcome to do so. You have plenty of ways to be a part of the show if you'd like as well.
We also have tickets.
And, yeah, you could be a part of the games this weekend as well. Tickets to go see Oregon State and Purdue tomorrow at 5:30 at Research Stadium. We'll give you a chance to call in and win on those here in hour number 2. But we were going to touch a little on some NFL. We've got a Friday news dump coming up for those. It'll be our first one of the season for those that maybe don't remember from last year. Friday is always a good time to kind of like hit those, if you've got some news that you need to just kind of get lost in the shuffle, well, then Friday's a good time to do it. We make sure that no good headline goes to waste. We've got a Friday news dump where we will be sharing with you some of our favorite things that have been going on in the world of football. And we'll be taking a look at just kind of what's coming up this weekend, get you caught up and ready to go for kickoff so that you know when and where you need to be with the games coming up this weekend as we pack it in at the end of the hour. So a lot to get to through this hour. Just saw this comment come through, and this is a great plug to tell you you can make comments on our YouTube stream. You can go to 1490 The Score on YouTube. Follow the show with us there. We are streaming live right now. You can pull that up and watch Knight and my beautiful face talking to you throughout the hour.
Face, singular?
Faces.
Do you care about my health,
we're
Joey?
We're melded together. You can join us there, and you can be a part of the program by commenting on the show in the comment section with us there. But the question was asked. The opening clip to today's show was from last week when we were talking superstitions on Friday the 13th. And yes, I did in fact wear a different t-shirt and a different hat this week for the Oregon Duck game. The wife and I went out to Splits for the first half and watched the game there, got some food, then went home and watched the second half of the game from home. And I had just a different Oregon shirt. It's kind of meant to look vintage. I've had it for a while, but it's not old. But it's got the old block interlinked U of O logo on the front. And then I had just an Oregon Duck hat, all bright green with the Oregon Duck mascot head on the front. So I switched it all up, different shirt, different hat, and things went much better this week for the Oregon Ducks, this last week. So for all that need to know.
Thank you, Joey.
For
so
all
you,
that
you
need to
do
know,
care about my health.
I do care about your health tonight. You are important to me. You matter.
Oh. Thank you. That's all I needed today.
So there you go.
That's gonna get me through the 1 hour 30.
Do I need to start doing a social media video of this is what Joey's wearing for game day? Like teams do.
Yeah, and then at the end you just go parkour.
Parkour Keeran back in house. Oh boy, it was a great game day. We did talk Civil War. If you've got thoughts on that, we'd love to hear from you here in the second hour of the program. If you've got thoughts on are the Ducks back from what you saw against the Beavers, and for Oregon State, just kind of your thoughts about the season going forward. How big is this week's matchup against Purdue for what the Oregon State Beavers are hoping to accomplish? All things that we were hitting on in hour number 1 of the show. But I did want to turn our attention a little bit towards the NFL as we have been watching a few weeks now of the season. First, how much of a stinker was that game last night? I mean,
boo.
Yeah. Like I actually,
what I will say, it's cool seeing Aaron Rodgers being back to normal.
Okay, he is persona non grata in our household. But
he, like as a person, very questionable. As a person,
that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, he does enjoy spending some time in Southern Oregon.
He does. Yeah, that is something.
That is something. But it was cool. Like, I mean, you didn't think that you would see like a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off of Achilles moving that way.
Yeah, he did. He did break a couple that it was like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, like he could still throw out in the move. Like, he was rolling out to his right, a rope, like, boom. And
got tackled from behind, going out of bounds, popped up, no problem, back out onto the field. Yeah. Like, I'm 41 years old. I probably would not fare that well. Granted, I don't take as good of care of my body as what Aaron Rodgers does, but
maybe you should spend time in a cave in Southern Oregon.
I would gladly do that. I mean, that feels restful.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I would be like, oh, man. Like 12, 14 hours of sleep or just darkness and just, I could probably go for that. I might be willing to do that. I don't know about the whole ayahuasca stuff, but what the heck? Let's have some fun.
But other than that, it was so boring.
It was really. I got excited. My wife had to go. I wasn't excited for her because it made it for a really long day for her. But she had a school board meeting she had to go to for work, so she was gone. And I was like, well, she had one on Wednesday as well. And I was like, well, shoot, there's no football on anywhere. Like, I got the house to myself, the TV to myself. I could watch football, and there was no football on. So Thursday night, she had to go out. I was like, all right, I can watch football and not get that look that I get because I always want to put football on the TV.
Rightfully so.
It was just like, this is the game I get when I had the house to myself for a few hours. Like, oh, come on, man, this is just boring.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the App State game was so exciting either.
And I honestly, I was trying to do work while I had the game on, so I didn't even pay attention to the fact that there were other games going on. But yeah, I saw App State. Yes, that game was a snooze fest
absolutely
too.
Demolished. Shout out South Alabama, back-to-back weeks. They scored 87 points last week. And
just ridiculous.
Came out and just beat App State on the road.
But the NFL Week 3 of the season is kicked off, and here we are. The one thing that I think going into this season, there was a lot of excitement. We had a number of rookie QBs, some of which were going to programs franchises where you were like, okay, let's see, this could be big. One of which was former Oregon Duck Bo Nix, and a lot of excitement to see what he could maybe do after what looked to be a fairly promising preseason for the Denver Broncos. I think there was a lot of excitement. Well, the regular season is kicked off, and things have not necessarily been going well for Bo or for our rookie QBs.
On 2nd and goal, Nix protected to the back of the end zone, picked off, intercepted, and it's Trice.
Bo, can you take us through the interception in the end zone?
Drop back, do it to the other team.
Oh, just so good to hear Bo Nix, who, apparently he's just a man of few words now. He perfectly explained his interception.
It reminds me of that interview with that Baylor basketball player back in the day.
That clip was also included in the article where I found that clip.
Oh, was it? Yeah,
Yes.
it's like the basketball player.
How did you guys beat him on the boards?
How did you get out rebound? Well, you went up, grabbed the ball off the rim, and brought it back down. That's a rebound.
That counts as a rebound. Yeah. Very well put there for Bo Nix. It has not gone well for Bo. It has not gone well for Jaden Daniels. Not gone well for Caleb Williams in Chicago. I mean, I'm wondering if we should have even been surprised by all of this. We've seen how many rookie quarterbacks go into the league and just it takes time. Like, you don't look at Jordan Love, look at Aaron Rodgers before that. I mean,
it takes a special person.
Now, it's not everybody C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Not everybody C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud went in there and did a great job as a rookie, and I think that a lot of people expected that from him. Joe Burrow had a really good first year. You know, there's exceptions. It's just what I think happened, and what I think has happened is that the NFL draft has just become such a QB-focused event, right? You had 6 quarterbacks go within, like, the top 12 picks, top 13 picks. Like, That's the problem, is that you just have this stack of QBs in the top 15 of the draft, and I don't know if all these quarterbacks, 10 years ago are drafted in the top 15. I think that what's happening is that the quarterbacks are getting taken higher because teams are antsy. That quarterback that you would find on day 2, the Derek Carrs of the world, don't really exist anymore because teams are just like, we need a quarterback, let's draft one. And they get too excited. And I think what you're seeing is that, sure, Caleb Williams probably was going to be the number 1 pick regardless, just based on his talent. Jaden Daniels, what he did at LSU this past year was phenomenal, but I still think he's a work in progress. And this is why I really respect what the Patriots are doing right now, is that
not playing
Drake May. In fact, I actually saw a meme today, and it was like that meme of like the arrows coming in, and somebody like God basically like standing in, taking all the arrows, and then it's like somebody sleeping on the bed. It was like Jacoby Brissett's that person that's taking in all those arrows.
Oh God, yes.
And Drake May's that person that's sleeping on.
Wow,
the
that is accurate.
Right?
It's so accurate.
Right, and that's the thing, is that like, I respect the Falcons. Michael Penix isn't out there.
And they made the difficult decision to draft a QB in a spot. I mean, like, to get a QB of Michael Penix's level, you had to draft him in the first round. And they made that tough decision to, after signing Kirk Cousins, to make that pick, knowing that they were going to, 1, probably ruffle some feathers, and 2, have to spend money on Michael Penix, but put him on the bench. And, I mean, it was probably the right decision.
Well, and the other thing, too, is, and the reason why the NFL has become so quarterback antsy is because teams see that first 5 years of a quarterback's career as a crucial time to try to make a move because they're on that rookie deal.
It's free money, basically.
It's free money. You're paying so little for the talent that you potentially could have. And so you're starting to see it now. Joe Burrow kind of gets that deal. It feels like the Bengals window is kind of closing a little bit, more so now than it was, 2-3 years into his career. Right now, the Texans window wide open. Like, the Texans can make moves. That's what they're doing. They're excited about that move. What's going to happen in 3 years? Are the Texans going to be as competitive? I don't know. That's the dilemma right now, and why a lot of teams are going that way. But rookie quarterbacks are struggling, and it's a little surprising, especially with this group. Right, this group was a group that a lot of them got extra eligibility because of COVID and stayed a little bit longer.
Nix is older. Jaden Daniels is a guy that's been around a lot, played in different systems.
Jaden Daniels played against Justin Herbert.
Yeah,
Jaden Daniels beat Justin Herbert in 2019. Like that's how long ago Jaden Daniels was. And that's the thing. People were like, "Oh, Bo Nix is so old. He beat Justin Herbert. No, he's a freshman." Yeah, so was Jaden Daniels. And nobody brought up that. Nobody's calling Jaden Daniels Unk like they're calling Bo Nix Unk. Like, that's the difference. And it's a little bit surprising seeing them struggle, because you just thought that Bo Nix was going to be a guy that, he's seen every defense. He's been in the SEC. He's been in the Pac-12. He's played against good competition. Like, you'd think that he'd succeed at the NFL, and it's just been a big learning curve.
Well, and the performance in the preseason is what really has caught me, like, why I'm not surprised that there are struggles, but the fact that look, preseason, you get a lot of guys.
I think the preseason is just not what it used to be.
No, totally. But Nix looked good. And, I mean, this is a step up in caliber of competition than what you would see at the college level. And Nix was out there looking good. And granted, it takes an even bigger step up as you get into the regular season, but I'm just surprised that it seems like he's fallen off as much as he has. A quick look at numbers. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, the big 3 kind of rookies that are starting here this season. 0 passing TDs, 3 rushing TDs, with Jaden Daniels having 2, Bo Nix having 1, 6 interceptions. Bo Nix with 4, and Caleb Williams with 2. It's just, to me, it's, there was a lot of hype, and that's, like you said, that's just the way it is nowadays. The quarterbacks are coming in, so much hype, but it is a bit surprising to see, and especially with, like, the teams that these guys went to, maybe not necessarily Denver, but, like, Chicago made moves to get Keenan Allen. They had Roma Dunze, who's they like. They've got
I really
DJ
thought
Moore.
The Bears were going to be back. Caleb has just not played good. But
Yeah,
the offensive line needs a lot of work.
And maybe that's the case. I mean,
there is a I was going to say there is a reason why they picked number 1. Well, the reason why is because they traded.
I mean, and
they traded the number 1 pick to Carolina for Bryce Young and got the deal back of the century.
But they also would have been picking early in the draft if it hadn't been for that anyway. Like, I mean, there are deficiencies on their teams. They picked high in the draft for a reason. But it felt like, to not through 2 weeks of the season, not a single passing touchdown for 3. I mean, Nix was an elite passer in college, passing completions.
I mean, his completion percentage isn't bad, is it?
But you would think that eventually there would be one that would go to the house, right? Through 2 weeks? I mean,
yes. But also,
I'm just shocked that there hasn't been one.
But Bo Nix's top receiver is Courtland Sutton.
Yeah,
he's been hurt by some drops. I will say that, but he's not pushing the ball downfield. It's exactly what people are saying. Oh, he's checked down Bo, right? That's what it feels like. He had some opportunities. He threw an interception, and he didn't do that a lot at Oregon. He was in a very controlled offense.
Between the three, it's stunning to me that there has not been one guy that has been able to find the ends. And their teams have scored points.
Almost Drake May yesterday. That would have been so funny. In my opinion, like Drake May coming out there and be like, thank you. That's what I'm here for, to come in and throw the first touchdown as a rookie.
That would have been.
But talk about a bad O-line.
Yeah, you do. You were talking a lot about Justin Herbert there. I just saw that he's apparently doubtful this weekend, in case you need to know that for your fantasy or
apparently
gambling purposes.
He told reporters today that he had a high ankle sprain at the game against Carolina last week.
Does it sting for you that Derek Carr is... I had this note saved: 15 possessions, 15 scores to start out the season for the Saints offense.
It doesn't sting. I'm very happy for Derek. As a Raiders fan and as a also distinguished alum of Bakersfield Christian High School, I have a lot of admiration for Derek Carr. He was the quarterback of my childhood. I remember the day when he got drafted by the Raiders. I was in the same room as him the same day that he signed his big extension with the Raiders. He came down and did a charity event at my school.
Wow.
He's a very good dude, really good dude. And, it's good to see the impact that he's making in New Orleans, not only on the field, but also off the field. There was a report today that New Orleans gone 18 days without a murder for the first time in the city history. And we're saying that Derek Carr is saving the city right now. But I'm very happy for him because he's playing out of his mind. He said he's had the best offseason of his life, and it looks like he is. Now, I do think the other funny thing that came about was he did the little MJ dance, and he got fined $14,500 for that. Bears player got fined $11,000 for punching an opponent in the face. So, folks, don't dance. You could get more money taken from you than punching somebody. Like, Derek Carr could have scored that touchdown, gone up to the defender he rolled over, and was like, pow, and still saved money.
Jeez. The NFL, really.
Yeah. No, but I'm very happy for him. The Saints fans deserve this. Derek Carr deserves this. The Saints are looking really, really good and have a big game this week against the Eagles. Make or break, depending on how you view this team. Because this could be a game where it's like, okay, the Saints are legit. Or it could be a game where it's like, okay, the Saints were frauds for the first 2 weeks. But I tend to think that because this is an election year, Derek Carr is going to have a heck of a season.
You mentioned that. That is interesting. That
Derek Carr's best seasons, 2016, 2020, and now 2024. Something about political turmoil just gets Derek Carr going.
It just revs his engine. He is ultra focused.
He just doesn't care about what's happening.
He can't turn on the TV to get distracted because it's just all and he's just like, I don't want to deal with that. And he's like, I guess I'll just go look at my game book.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just focus on football instead. There's nothing good to watch on TV. He's Knight Jarecki. I'm Joey Keeran. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving. We got to get into a break here, but we do have tickets to give away to go see Oregon State and Purdue. So if you would like to go see that matchup tomorrow, I would suggest you give us a call here during this next commercial break because we'd love to give you some tickets. You were looking them up, Knight. These are actually, they're not just like some throwaway tickets.
They're good seats.
There's some good seats that we get.
Section 119, row 30. You're right at the 20-yard line, right above the student section. Like, these are sideline seats in the lower bowl that you could have. You just got to call.
They're yours to be had. So give us a call at 541-673-5551. That's 541-673-5551. We'd love to give you a pair of tickets to go see Oregon State and Purdue coming up tomorrow. 5:30 kickoff there in Corvallis. We'll take a break. When we come back, it's time for a Friday news dump. So don't go anywhere, folks. More of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show coming up here on The Score.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Jarecki. Well, it's Friday night, and that means high school football in the state of Oregon. Friday Night Lights tonight, and that means the Roseburg Indians are going to be in action. The Indians will look to bounce back after suffering their first loss of the season last week. The Tribe will take its first road trip of the season south to face off against the Crater Comets at Dutchmeyer Field in Central Point. The game kicks off tonight at 7 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 6:45 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or you can watch the live video simulcast at 541radio.com. At the Class 3A level, Sutherland, Douglas, South Umpqua are all still undefeated as they continue non-conference play this week. Number 7th ranked South Umpqua heads to Klamath Union, Douglas travels to Valley Catholic, and the Sutherland Bulldogs host the Phoenix Pirates in a battle of unbeatens. All three games kick off at 7 p.m. You can tune in to hear the Sutherland Bulldogs on I-101 FM with the pregame starting at 6:45 p.m. The top-ranked Oakland Oakers have taken control of the Class 2A rankings with a pair of big-time wins. The Oakers will look to remain undefeated tonight as they host the undefeated Salem Academy team. In 8-man football, number 3, North Douglas welcomes in number 8, Camas Valley to Drain tonight. Yoncalla hosts a North versus South matchup against Glendale, and Riddle looks for an upset at number 4, Cross Point Christian. In 6-man football, Days Creek looks for its first win against Gilchrist, and Elkton looks to end a 2-game skid against Eddyville. You can check out today's high school sports schedule at 541radio.com. Also coming up tonight, we got the Friday night pregame show presented by Mountain Mike's. Got a couple of great interviews happening tonight at 6 o'clock on The Score, including one by Hunter Vaughn from North Douglas High School, who had the first quarter of the ages. You're going to want to tune in for that one.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services, such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Hanging out and talking ball. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. Fridays noon to 2 on The Score. Tune in each week as Joey Keeran and Knight Jarecki recap, debate, and break down the latest topics and hottest headlines in high school, college, and professional football. Join the fun by calling the show at 541-673-5551 or message us on X at KSKR The Score. It's local sports talk in Douglas County. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show on The Score. Beavers, Ducks, and the NFL. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Welcome back, everybody, here to the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show in the Score Sports Closet. Knight and Joey here hanging out with you today and trying to give away a couple of tickets to go to the beach. Is this a bad sign? Either nobody's listening to us or nobody wants...
Maybe it's a fan that looked at the sections for this week and were like, oh, man, I just don't have that color to wear and the stripe out. I just morally, I can't take those tickets.
Well, we are running out of time here on the program today, so we'll keep trying to give away these tickets to go see Oregon. If you know somebody that might want to go to the game, let them know and tell them to tune in, and then we'll give you a chance to try and give us a call to win these tickets. We got
Purdue's
tickets
coming to town.
I mean, this is Big Ten football.
And you just had a Big Ten matchup or Big Ten team coming to town last week. Now you got another Big Ten team coming. Like Reeser's an exciting place to be.
Yeah, I would say this should be a fun game. It's a kind of a later game. I mean, things get wild on the CW after dark. I mean, let's go.
CW after dark. Don't talk to the Horned Frogs about that one.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that little tidbit here coming up in just a second because it's time to get to our Friday news dump and hit you with some of our favorite headlines we've been seeing here over the last few days.
Before we move on, I'm getting word we have a breaking story.
You're getting ready for the weekend, but we don't want you to miss out on the big headlines.
Your tone says this is good news, but your body says there is no good news.
Covering the news you need to hear. It's your Friday News Dump.
Play it.
So we are off and rolling here on this Friday News Dump. Our chance to try and kind of, we collect some headlines throughout the week and we hit them with you here that are always some fun ones. You have been just absolutely raving about the Cal Bears and their online presence. Their online presence right now apparently is just off the hook. But the Cal Bears this last week in person, not online, also a little bit crazy.
Fans, we love you. Stop throwing the cards on the field. That's 2 15-yard penalties. Please stop throwing the cards on the field. Fans.
That was Justin Wilcox, the head coach of the Cal Bears. Apparently the fans, they were at home, and the Cal Bears were, they had like placard cards in the stands for whatever.
So they do like stunt cards. It's been a tradition since like the 1960s, like long time ago they've been doing it.
And they were all throwing them on the field and causing the Cal football team to get 15-yard penalties.
He literally grabbed the referee and like was holding
grabbed his little mic.
It was like, fans. I've never seen a head coach do that.
Well, so the fans apparently are kind of going crazy. One thing I wanted to ask in this whole process, and then I want you to explain kind of what you're seeing online because it's interesting. But is it? They were at home, obviously, so he's addressing the home fans. He's the head coach of the home team. Is that like? Should that be illegal for a coach to be able to address? Like, I could see the PA announcer doing it. And you definitely don't want people throwing stuff from the stands, but, like, I'm sorry, does the opposing coach get to grab the official's microphone and address the crowd? Like, no, please keep doing that.
I think that you can do that as a coach at your home stadium.
That feels just a little bit of home field advantage there.
At the end of the day, like, the PA announcer can do all that he wants. It's not going to stop anything. In
fact, it carries some weight.
Here's a very like famous incident in Canadian sports history. So in the 1950s, there was this player, Maurice Richard, who was a hockey player for the Montreal Canadiens, and he got into a fight, got ejected from the game, and then the NHL suspended him for the remainder of the Stanley Cup playoffs, which the Canadiens were in. And after he got thrown out of the game, the city of Montreal rioted because they were upset about this. And this was like a massive riot throughout the streets. People were on the news saying, these people have to stop. Like, the prime minister was out there. These people have to stop. Well, the only thing to get these people to stop was actually Rocket Richard going out there and saying, guys, stop rioting in the streets. And so sometimes you just need that. You just need that extra person, that person tied into the team to listen to. Because I think the fans are going to listen to Justin Wilcox.
I would think so.
Do they listen to the PA announcer? Maybe not so much.
So their fans have been creating a disturbance on Twitter on X?
Oh, Cal? Yeah. So this has been a thing since they beat Auburn. It started with, so Cal, obviously, if you know about Berkeley and just the University of California, it has like a reputation for being known as a very liberal college, a very politically left university. And so it started when a Cal Twitter user posted, now that Auburn loses, they have to line up the next day and get their new pronouns. And it's just been a thing since that, like, now it's a woke in Cal up a little bit. and now this week they're playing Florida State, obviously Florida, a very conservative area. Doak Walker Stadium is their stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Woke Walker Stadium is now what Cal fans are taking it over. There's been Twitter memes no matter where you go. It's hilarious. Like, there was somebody took a screenshot of the map of like Tallahassee, and it was like they like had an elementary school and they crossed it out and it was like Kamala Harris Elementary School, Karl Marx Elementary School, like Oski Tabernacle, which Oski is their mascot. Yeah, it's hilarious. I didn't know that Cal had this game. In fact, I didn't know that there was many Cal fans other than my best friend Eli, who was born and raised in Berkeley. I was like, oh, there exists.
They're coming out of the woodwork.
And then all of a sudden, Cal has just come out, especially with the AI-generated memes. They've just come out, and it's been hilarious. And it's taken over, not even just me, but like you've seen national reporters across the country post that they're also getting bombarded with the Calgorithm, as they're calling it, because Twitter has an algorithm. It's the Calgorithm, where your feed is just filled with Cal memes, and it's hilarious. I wish we could show these. If you are listening on the radio right now, just like when you get home, or pull off the freeway if you really have to, just pull off, park your car, and just search Cal football on Twitter, and
you'll be entertained for hours. You may not get to your destination on time.
You might not, but it's hilarious. Shout out the Berkeley Bears. You deserve this. All of a sudden, America's team, the team that is 3-0 and has a chance to do something in the ACC,
causing a disturbance in the force on Twitter.
Isn't this weird? Cal versus Florida State ACC opener.
Yeah, that's extreme. This year is going to be the year of strange.
Everything about the East Bay reminds me of the Atlantic Coast.
How about this one? Marshall's head coach Charles Huff. This may be considered tampering. I don't know, but all I can tell you is I've looked the place up and I'm ready to go play. I don't know what position I could maybe be
linebacker. You're a two-time All-League linebacker.
I don't want to suit up at linebacker, but if it gets me an NIL deal with this place, I would be willing to do it. Here's Marshall's head coach Charles Huff.
Trust me, I know where we are, but I feel good about the track we're on, and I feel good about the players we have. Would love to have some of those guys from Ohio State too. So if they want to transfer on down, we've got a Tudor's Biscuit NIL, all you can eat. So if any of those guys that run really, really fast at Ohio State like Tudor's Biscuits, I promise you, all you can eat all day if you transfer here. So, but yeah.
I don't know how to follow that.
That was Charles Huff, and then the reporter. I don't know how to. So Tudor's is a biscuit. It's Tudor's Biscuit World. I had to look him up because I'd never heard of it.
Biscuit World.
Yes, and I haven't eaten all day. I forgot to grab something to bring for breakfast. I've been running around all morning, so I haven't stopped to like figure out something to eat. And I'm looking at this website, and dear. It looks delicious. Looks fantastic.
I just Googled
They've
it
got
right
a
now.
catering part that keeps popping up on the little slider that keeps putting up, and it's like you've got sausage, bacon, gravy, biscuits. It looks fantastic, and I am all for breakfast.
So Tudor's Biscuit World, just based on like looking at it, it's like if you combined a Long John Silver's with like a Popeyes or like a Waffle House.
It kind of makes me think of Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel,
yeah,
kind of?
a little bit.
Oh my gosh, have you seen this? Look at the mascot.
It's literally a breakfast sandwich.
Like, I don't know if anybody can see this on, like, this is insane.
For our viewers on the YouTube channel, It looks delicious, and I would definitely sign up for an. But my question is, as Marshall gets ready to face Ohio State this weekend, is this tampering? Does it work? Is Ohio State Ohio State's third string wide receivers like? Yeah, I could go for some biscuits. Sure, Coach.
So the first thing that came to my mind was he said, if any of those guys that run fast at Ohio State want to come here, we got biscuits. In my mind, I said, well, if they come there for the biscuits, are they going to keep running fast?
Exactly. I was like, did he mean to say the big guys maybe instead? The thing I love about this is Charles Huff, the coach here.
Great coach, by the way.
He reminds me, do you remember the show Family Matters with Urkel?
Yeah.
This is well before your time. This was, Friday night TV on ABC.
Yes.
He reminds me of the dad from Family Matters.
I can see that.
The guy that was the cop in Die Hard. Just that's who I'm seeing him, and I'm just like I couldn't. He's got a look, and watching him without the sound on, it just makes me giggle.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
Good coach, for sure.
Dude, he developed Saquon Barkley. He recruited Saquon to Penn State and developed him at Penn State. Went to Alabama after a short stint at Mississippi State, where he was with Joe Moorhead, former Oregon Duck offensive coordinator, and after being the associate head coach at Alabama, he got the job at Marshall. And there's been a lot of people that have talked about him potentially getting a Power 5 job someday.
Well,
with that recruiting,
that kind of recruit, if he can get tutors on,
if you could sell kids on biscuits, wait until you find out what type of money you could have at the Power 4 level.
Oh, man. Good stuff there. NIL is providing plenty of entertainment. Finally, here, one last headline I wanted to hit on the NFL. We were watching this game, following along over the last weekend. Malik Willis, formerly of my Tennessee Titans, now with my wife's Green Bay Packers, picking up a win for the Packers last week against the Indianapolis Colts. There was one questionable play in there, though, and afterwards, Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers, gave an explanation as to what was happening.
I asked Malik why he didn't throw the ball on that third down, and he told me that Josh threw up on the ball. I was like, that's the first time I've ever heard that. Matter of fact, the official came over to me, Sean came over to me and said, we saw your center thrown up on the ball. Do you want us to take him out next time? I said, absolutely, please do that, because, you're talking about a critical situation. And it's third down, and I've never had a throw with vomit on a football. So I don't know. I don't think Malik probably didn't appreciate that.
My favorite part. Malik probably didn't appreciate that. You think? Oh, God, what the heck? The replay of it, the Packers were the one that posted it, and they put the Packers logo over where the ball is, so you don't see the center actually losing his lunch on the football in the clip, but they show, and it's like, yeah, Malik went back to pass and I guess must have realized that his hands were slipping all around. You would have thought at the end of the play, he's cradling the football in and he gets done and then he kind of smacks it. He kind of hangs onto it and kind of smacks it with both hands as they whistle the play dead as he got wrapped up by the defender. Like, he must not have known, I guess, because there's no way in heck I'm holding the football after the whistle that I know has been covered in vomit.
Maybe. In the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't. But maybe in the back of his mind, he's like, maybe if I hold this on me, it's going to stink up my jersey, and that'll prevent the defense from coming around me because they don't want to be near me and touch the vomit on my jersey. I don't know. That's the only thing that I can think of.
And how great is that clip? The officials came over, and what would you like us to do next time, Coach? Yeah, maybe get the guy that's vomiting on the field off the field.
There was a clip that went viral a few weeks ago of a pitcher pitching, and mid windup he just unloads.
I did not see that one. That would be spectacular.
He's delivering the pitch, and as he's throwing the ball, he's just barfing all over the mound. This is a minor league baseball player. And he was like, yeah, that had a little too much. Actually, that brings me back to my Little League days. Because I remember, like, this one kid, like, in Little League, like, he was, like, our shortstop or something. Just, like, in the middle of the game, all of a sudden, we just, like, turn back. And it's like, what's Jimmy doing? And he's just, like, throwing up behind the second base bag.
Oh, my goodness. Some kid? Is that what this is?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
He was a friend of a friend, yeah.
Well, no,
yeah.
it wasn't me. I swear. No, it really wasn't me. But, like, I don't remember what kid that was that I played with. But
you just have that core memory.
That core memory of the kid just throwing up Gatorade. Like, that was what it was.
My goodness. I don't think I ever, like, there's been like when I played football, I remember, like, I got nerves pretty good before a game. Once the game got going, like, everything went away. But before the game, I was always nerves. Always had kind of a butterflies in the stomach kind of feeling before games. But once kickoff happened, once you're out there and you're playing, like, it all went away. Baseball, I always got in my head with baseball, which I think is why I wasn't great at the sport. Like, I loved it. I think I had abilities, but I think it was more the mental side of baseball that took me out of it.
Do you ever, like, throw up in practice or anything?
I don't think so. No, I don't recall ever doing that. I do remember one time after a workout, like a morning workout, and I just went way too hard with not enough food in my stomach, and I ended up, like, just in the stall puking one morning at school. But but never, like, at practice or during a game. Like, I don't ever recall. Like, I remember having nervous moments, but no, not to that level. You think he was sick? As we wrap up the Friday news dump here, was the center sick for the Pack? Like, what? I'm just very curious as to what would have led to an NFL professional who has played many, many games of football in his career to suddenly just losing it all. But kudos to did it, snapped the ball good enough to get it back in shotgun, picked up blitz protection or whatever. Like, I'm curious what would have been the cause to lead an NFL offensive lineman to, in the middle of a play, puke.
The only thing that I can think of is, okay, so the weather in Green Bay on Sunday was 89 degrees.
That's toasty.
And humidity was 98%.
That's extremely toasty.
So that could be it. Like,
yeah, probably had something to do with that.
So,
maybe
a little heat exhaustion.
He needs to hydrate a little bit better.
Yeah.
That is our Friday news dump here. We will continue to peruse the headlines and see if we can get some more of those coming up for you next Friday here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Just the stuff that, like, that segment to me is always fun because, like, these are the things we'd be sitting down and talking about at the tailgate. So that's why we bring it to you here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Now, when we come back, we are going to wrap things up with our final segment. We'll take a look at what's coming up on your schedule, what games are when, what's going on. We'll talk a little bit about tonight's high school football schedule, get you some thoughts on what's coming up for Roseburg as we get ready to head down to Crater for their matchup in Central Point. Looking forward to that one. We'll break down some of the high school football and what games are coming up for you here this weekend when we come back. Don't go anywhere. The Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show continues here on The Score.
A stove from Fisher's Hearth and Home will keep you toasty warm during the cold season. A new addition from Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center would love to be kept warm too. Hi, I'm Barbara from Fisher's Hearth and Home, and we are proud to sponsor the Saving Grace Pet of the Week.
Hey everyone, this is Sin from Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center. Perry the dog has been with us for almost a year now, but we know his forever family is out there somewhere. This sweet, affectionate guy is just waiting to fill your life with love and joy. Imagine Perry by your side. Whether it's enjoying your morning coffee on the porch or snuggling up at night, he'll be your constant source of comfort. Perry loves long walks and exploring new places, turning every stroll into an adventure. Come meet Perry today. You just might be the one he's been waiting for.
Whether it's a wood, pellet, gas, or electric stove, indoor or out, Fisher's Hearth and Home has the right stove for you. Call our family at 541-672-0306. For a cozy companion to be by your side and enjoy the fire with you, visit Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center in Roseburg or visit savinggracepetadoptioncenter.org.
Roseburg football is on the air. It's a new era with a new coach and new opponents. Tune in Friday nights as the Roseburg Indians take to the gridiron for hard-hitting high school football action. Get ready for kickoff with the Friday night pregame show presented by Mountain Mike's Pizza starting at 6. Then we go live to the field starting at 6:45 as we count down to kickoff at 7. It's Roseburg football on the Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or watch the live video simulcast at 541radio.com.
From opening night to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, don't miss a second of the NFL this season. Hi, this is Kurt Warner of Westwood One. Join our crew each week for the best in primetime NFL action. Monday night, Sunday night, and Thursday night football, plus marquee games on Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas, and more. Westwood One is the exclusive radio home for every primetime and postseason game. It's right here.
On your home for the NFL, The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Hey, sis, missed you this morning. Kim told me you weren't feeling well, so I'm just doing a self-care check.
Oh, thank you, friend.
How you doing?
Girl, listen, my energy was so low because I didn't eat breakfast when I got up, so I had to miss virtual yoga with y'all.
Trust me, I understand.
But I'm doing much better now that I've eaten, so I'm back on track.
Great. In that case, let's get some steps in tonight. I'll come over and we can walk around the lake.
Sounds good. Appreciate you being in my business, too. Now, let me get in yours. Did you check your blood pressure today?
I did that and my squats, okay?
Okay.
High blood pressure is not going to be my friend if I can help it. See you at 6?
Let's get it. See you then.
Now more than ever, it's important that we protect our hearts and the hearts of those we love. Check in on one another and be a part of a healthy blood pressure movement. Rally your squad to take the online pledge at releasethepressure.org. Brought to you by the Release the Pressure Coalition and the Ad Council.
From the Score Sports Closet, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
If you've got a move coming up here in the near future, now's the time to reach out to BTB Moving. They will help provide the labor services for your moving needs. They're veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. Senior and veteran discounts are available. Book now at 541-315-0122, or you can find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. Knight Jarecki and Joey Keeran here with you. We're going to be heading on out here in just a little while to head to Central Point for Roseburg football tonight as they take on the Crater Comets, and wanted to talk a little high school football with you here before we wrap things up. If you want more high school football coverage, coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, it's the Friday night pregame show presented by Mountain Mike's Pizza. We'll be covering all sorts of high school football stuff coming up this evening. I've got a conversation with Crater's head coach Seth Womack to preview that matchup with the Roseburg Indians and the Crater Comets. And Knight, you've got an interview coming up this evening.
Yeah, with Hunter Vaughn. Oh my gosh, first quarter of the ages last week.
Explain to all of us. Give us the lowdown.
He scored 7 TDs. 4 of them were kickoff returns in the first quarter. They scored 66 points in the first quarter.
And it was all Hunter Vaughn?
It was. I mean, not all Hunter Vaughn. I mean, 7 times 7. That's 49 points on him.
Okay. Yeah. True, huh?
Yeah.
I'm terrible at math. I'm really bad at math, so don't ever trust me.
And he had what, 80,
especially on the air.
80, 74-yard returns?
Yeah, just crazy. In the first quarter to score 7 touchdowns. Even in 9-man football, that is just remarkable.
8-man football.
That's right. They're in 8-man football this year. They're no longer in the 9-man level. So, that is just remarkable.
Great conversation, though. One of Douglas County's best. And, I mean, he lives up to his name. You'll hear about that a little bit more. But first quarter of the century, really good kid. I can't wait for this interview to be played. I mean, he deserves a lot of credit. And shout out North Douglas. Like, they're a really good team this year.
Yeah, they look dangerous.
They were in the co-op team last year playing 9-man. I think dropping back to 8-man's been a good thing for them. At least talking to Hunter, it feels like the team camaraderie is really high right now. It feels like they got a good squad together, that they're not having to deal with intermingling with the neighboring town. And now all of a sudden, like, they can just be their own. They can be North Douglas, and they had the physical 9-man conference last year, and that set them up exceptionally well for this 8-man league.
Well, they've got a big matchup. They host Camas Valley tonight. That should be a really fun matchup there in Drain. Two teams that Camas Valley, always traditionally a very good team at the 8-man level. They've struggled a little bit this year. The last rankings we saw had Camas Valley in the top 10, so this would be a top 10 matchup. Rankings, I believe, get updated here today, and we might see that change a little bit there for Camas Valley, but nonetheless should be a really good matchup between two good teams, Hornets and Warriors, squaring off there in Drain here this afternoon. But the Friday night pregame show starts at 6 o'clock, and then you've got the interview with Hunter Vaughn. I've got Coach Womack from Crater, and we'll run through all of the games coming up here this evening in high school football around the area and kind of break down some of those. Did you look up the rankings? Was that what you were typing in away over there? I did find them here. Camas Valley is receiving votes. They are now outside the top 10. So not technically a top 10 matchup, I guess, but it was they're right outside the top 10. So, and North Douglas actually fell one spot to number 4. I think
what do you got to do?
For some reason, I believe that this performance by Hunter Vaughn somehow went slightly unnoticed at the statewide level. The OSAA does their players, like they choose an athlete of the week in every sport. And I think in football, I'm sure there was a lot of great around the state, a lot of great performances, but how does Hunter Vaughn not? You score 7 touchdowns in one quarter. If you score 7 touchdowns in one game, you should be up for the state player of the week.
Troy Palomalo did that.
I don't think the OSA was doing players of the week back then, but I don't see why they wouldn't have named him one.
Dude, 7 TDs, you gotta get 4 kickoff returns. Come on. The biggest question of the week was, why did they keep kicking it to him?
And the advice of the week is Camas Valley, avoid doing that.
Yeah.
Looking at Roseburg tonight, they take on Crater. Once again, Roseburg has to face and here's another guy that would have been up for state player of the week in football. Valentine Rodriguez,
my goodness,
60 carries. That's more than Roseburg has the entire season. 60 carries in one game for 448 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns for this Rodriguez kid as a running back for Crater. Roseburg, after facing a tough back last week in Seville Posse from Churchill, now they got to face another one this week. We'll see what kind of adjustments they made. They saw it last week, and the message has been, we've seen it, we know it. Now we can go out there and try to play a little bit tougher against the run this week. We'll see if they are able to make the changes.
That's the tough dilemma. But, hey, they already faced Seville Posse. Now that they've done that, they should be prepared for this one.
You would think so.
You would think that they, after facing a physical running back, you would be prepared for another physical running back. Different type of offense. And they talked a little bit. It's a no-huddle offense, and so that's the little difference.
There is some tweaks. It's not quite the same looks, but, tackling, they've got to find a way to bring down that running back at first. Because I think first contact, Roseburg was there a lot against Seville Posse, or they filled the holes. They just got to be able to wrap a guy up and bring him down.
They got to secure those tackles.
That was a tough spot. The one thing I think Roseburg will have going for him tonight is Crater's defense has been susceptible to folks scoring on them. 2 out of the 3 teams they've faced so far this year, they had their highest point total against Crater, and the one team that doesn't have their highest point total against Crater, their second highest point total was against Crater.
Yep.
So I think Roseburg, going against this defense, hopefully can get their offense back on track after a bit of a tough week last week against Churchill. So giving you a real quick rundown of what's coming up here the rest of the weekend as well on the radio. Tomorrow, obviously, Oregon State and Purdue. Pregame starts at 3:30, kickoff at 5:30 here on The Score. No Oregon Duck football this weekend as the Ducks on the bye, the work week there, so no Oregon football on the radio this weekend. And then Sunday, it's our NFL triple header. We've got Packers and Titans. It's going to house divided at my house.
Yeah.
Niners and Rams, then following that, and then wrapping it up with Chiefs and Falcons on Sunday Night Football. And then your Monday Night Football matchup is the Washington Commanders and the Cincinnati Bengals. And so those are the games coming up. Sunday, it's a triple header starting with coverage at 9:30, going all day long. So tune in for your NFL here on The Score. On Monday Night Football, coverage starts at 4:30 there Monday night. And Yeah, we are down to the final 60 seconds here. Looking forward to the matchups. Who do your Raiders got this weekend?
Oh, my Raiders got the Panthers. Little bit of a tough one because Bryce Young's not playing, and
does the Red Rifle?
That's the dilemma.
Does he get this
I
offense
saw the
going?
reports today. Panthers offensive coordinator said the offense is looking, quote, sharp with Anthony Dalton. But also he said that also about Bryce Young. And Antonio Pierce said the Raiders offense looked better this week in practice than any other practice that they've ever had. And I think with the Raiders defense, I'm sorry, Andy, as much as I love you and I support you as a fellow redhead, I can't get behind you this week.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our program here. Don't forget to tune in for the football here tonight for Roseburg. And we've got tickets, so give us a call.
Hit us up on Twitter. If you find my Twitter, Knight_Jarecki, Jarecki. Hit me up. We got the tickets for you.
Yes, we will give away. We got Beaver tickets. You can call us here as the show comes to an end as well. 541-673-5551. You can hit us up on X as well if you want to go. We'll just whoever gets in touch with us, we'll give you away some tickets to go see Oregon State football coming up this weekend. The Beavers taking on the Purdue Boilermakers. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football, everybody. This has been the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving.